No use crying over spilled milk, but let me tell you, sour milk, that can mess you up.
Welcome to our Wonder Family podcast, sharing inspiring stories to encourage families to thrive through life's challenges. My parents believe the best way to build a bridge of connection, awareness, and understanding is through sharing raw and real stories. Now here's today's story with my mom and dad.
Story time with Becky. Dwayne and Becky.
Tell a story.
Tell me a story.
All right. Well, it's 3 days until moving day, and there was lots to be done. Tensions were running high. Under normal circumstances, I would have retreated to my room, hiding in a good book, but now was not the time for that. I must be as helpful as possible and do not cause any problems or any unnecessary stress. Today, we were packing the kitchen. She was taking the last of the dishes out of the cupboard and handing them to me. I wrapped each one in newspaper and carefully placed them in the box. And then she pulled a water bottle out of the cupboard with a look of shock and disgust. The stench of sour milk was unmistakable. There had been this weird smell in the kitchen that had been getting worse over time, but nearly everything in the house had been packed, the kitchen trash cans had been cleaned, but yet the smell remained and no one could figure out where the smell was coming from. But now she found the source of the stink. And I immediately remembered all too well that day 2 weeks ago. She'd gotten a phone call about showing the house, and we went into cleaning mode. I had dried the dishes and put them away, and then I picked up this water bottle on the countertop and just shoved it in the cupboard too. Never mind the weight of liquid sloshing around inside. What was I thinking, putting a full water bottle in the cupboard? Like, who does that? But of course, everyone knows the rule that you only put water in water bottles. And everyone in my family keeps our water bottle by our bed at night because if we get thirsty. So when I absentmindedly put the water bottle in the cupboard, I somehow expected that she would know that I had put it there, and then when the child asked for it, she would find it and put it by that kid's bed. Instead, it sat in the cupboard for 2 weeks, full of sour milk, stinking up the entire house. And it was all my fault. I panicked. I wanted to run and hide. But if I hid, she would know that I was guilty. So instead, I froze. I tried to blend in with the wall or melt into the floor. Neither of them work. I usually feel small and invisible, but in that moment when I needed to be invisible, my existence in the room felt painfully obvious. And I wanted to be anywhere else but there, but I dare not make any sudden moves. The last thing I wanted was for her to see me. Because if she saw me, she would know it was my fault. And then she would give me that mom look, asking like, how could you do something so stupid? And I couldn't bear the thought of her being disappointed in me. My mind raced, as it always did in moments like these. I failed to be helpful. I always make mistakes. No matter how hard I try, it's never good enough. I am too much. I am not enough. No matter what I do, I can't win. And if I try to explain, I'm only going to make it worse. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. I can't fix this. I don't know what to do. I want to run. I want to hide. Thankfully, she did not seem to notice me standing there. Though I was still convinced that if she saw me, she would realize it was my fault, and then panic kicked in again. Maybe I should hide after all. But almost everything in the house was packed. Are there any good hiding spots left? Maybe behind the couch. But would I even fit behind the couch? And suddenly I realized, I'm 35 years old. If I hide behind the couch, my friend is going to think I'm crazy. And the last thing I want is for her to think that I'm crazy. Although at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm losing my mind. And I actually don't remember how I got from that spot in the kitchen to safely in my own home. But somehow I did make it home. Just lost in my own thoughts as I tucked my kids in bed. And I still don't understand what happened inside of me, but I knew that the sour milk incident itself was not a big deal compared to my inability to take responsibility for my mistakes. And I knew that I had to say something. The younger me would have felt a lot of guilt and shame and dread. But adult me is kind of like, this is ridiculous. This is actually not that big of a deal. I just need to tell her. So the next time that I went over to help her pack to move, I was like, hey, so remember that water bottle of sour milk? She's like, yeah, of course I remember that. So I'm the one who put it in the cupboard. And she's like, did you just now remember that you did that? Nope. I remembered the moment you pulled it out of the cupboard. And she's like, so why didn't you say anything? And I'm like, I don't know. And I was confused and I did not understand. And I wish that we had time to talk about what happened, but there was packing that needed to get done. And then I was just stuck in my head, spiraling out of control, trying to understand what happened. And she loaded up the moving truck and drove off to her new home far away. And I was aware the sour milk incident was like a life-altering moment, but I didn't understand what happened inside of me. And I felt like my friend had the key to make sense of it all because she was there. Turns out she doesn't know what happened inside my head either because she can't see inside my head. But yeah, now she was gone, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. Yeah, so I told you and retold you that story so many times in so many versions.
Yes. So many times that you could write it that eloquently.
Yes.
Yes, you told me at least 20 times, so much so
Mhm.
that I started to say, is there something more to this story? Because I've heard it so many times. What? Why? What are you unpacking? I'm a consultant. I know marketing. Like,
Mm.
is this an inciting incident that you need to go
I don't
deeper?
know. I
Yes,
was
you.
so confused, but I knew it was important, but I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Initially, I felt guilt and shame, and I didn't want anyone to know about it. But I also was like, I need to figure this out, and therefore I need to talk about it. So I had to tell you, and I had to retell you. But it felt really vulnerable. So I use humor to hide my vulnerability and how vulnerable I feel. And I just make it funny. And so I told a rather funny version of the story, and we actually recorded a video of the funny version that we can add to this video so y'all can watch it.
It was very funny. Because you're funny.
Yep. Today, we're going to talk about identity and questioning ourselves and some great stories.
Yeah, you've been telling me a story that you're rather amused by
I am.
several times. I think I've heard it 4 times.
Yeah, it gets better every time.
Well, it sounds like you've discovered something about yourself in the process of this. Well, let's face it, it is rather amusing.
When I was a kid, that's how all the stories start. My older sister was sick and my younger sister was a baby. They both needed and received a lot of attention from my parents because of health issues and whatever. But I got attention by being mom's number one helper. So my value, worth, identity, all that was wrapped up in being helpful. So recently I was helping a friend pack to move, and it was really reminiscent of my youth, like helping the families who I was babysat for. But back then I was kind of insecure, and there's times that I was helping just because I'm helpful, and other times that I was definitely trying to like earn value by being helpful. Whereas now, like I was helping my friend pack to move, and I'm like, oh, this feels really good. I'm just doing this because I like to help and I want to spend time with my friend, and I'm not trying to earn value or anything. Yeah, so that was really cool just to be able to see how much I'd grown in the past 20 years since I was a teenager.
You were happy being helpful
I was happy being
just for
helpful.
the sake of being
Of
with your friend.
yeah, totally.
But then some sort of odor started to arise.
Yeah.
The situation became a little bit smelly. What caused this to go off the rails?
Yeah, so over the course of a few weeks, I went over to my friend's house a few times, and like I'd walk in and notice the funky smell. So I was kind of teasing her, like, good morning. Like, aren't you showing the house today? Like, if you're hoping to sell it, it would probably help if it didn't smell so weird. And the smell got bad enough that like we thought something died in the kitchen and we couldn't find it. So one day we're packing the kitchen and she pulled this water bottle out of the cupboard. The foul smell of sour milk permeating from the water bottle was unmistakable. And we had finally found the source of the stench. And she's cleaning it and like trying not to puke, and it's so gross. And my friend's like, one of those days that we were cleaning quick to show the house, I probably just shoved the water bottle in the cupboard. And she kept talking while she was cleaning and washing it. And I was just really inspired, just watching her be this excellent role model of a mature adult, just apologizing beautifully and just cleaning up the mess and taking ownership and responsibility. And I've always just really admired that about her. The thing is, 2 weeks ago, when I was there with our kids for a play date, and my friend got a call about showing the house. So we just went into cleaning mode and I dried and put dishes away. And then there were some water bottles sitting there, and it didn't occur to me to check and see what was in them, or even better to like wash them. So I'm definitely the one who put that water bottle in the cupboard.
Well, it is a water bottle.
Yeah, in our house we only put water in the water
It's
bottles.
an easy assumption to make, but it was full. So
it wasn't full, but there was definitely something in it.
You put a weightable water bottle in the cupboard.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking at that moment.
You're thinking this, we got to make it presentable.
But I was
hide stuff in the meantime.
I was washing dishes, so I don't know why I didn't just wash that one. I don't know where my brain was. But overall, I felt like I was being helpful until 2 weeks later that my friend is like gagging and washing the water bottle. And
what did you do? Did you
nothing.
Stop her? Let her know? No?
I did nothing.
So she apologized and took the blame for
Yes. Like I watched her apologize and take responsibility beautifully. She was doing an excellent job. Like, why would I interrupt?
Why get in the way of such a beautiful moment?
Like maybe at some point people took water bottles out of the cupboard and she did put it back in because she seems to think that she did it. So, I mean, maybe it was her fault. But I do very specifically remember putting that water bottle in the cupboard. And no, I didn't say anything in that moment. Yeah, so I lay in bed that night thinking about it. My teenage self, That would have been a sleepless night, just torn up with a guilty conscience and knowing that I needed to confess and just wrestling with the fear that admitting failure would lead to loss of approval and would we still be friends and whatever. But I've grown a lot in the last 20 years, and so I wasn't a total mess.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in our relationship and aware that this mistake isn't going to damage our friendship. Mostly I was just thinking about how she takes ownership of her mistakes, and it's just so inspiring, and I need to grow in that area. And a really obvious first step would be taking responsibility for the sour milk. So while I was overanalyzing the situation, I realized that I've grown a lot in being honest and vulnerable, especially in the past year, and especially with this friend. Like, she's a safe person who I trust, and I've shared deep stuff. But it's usually wounds caused by others or by circumstances. And it's a whole different story to do like the humility and admitting my own failures and mistakes. Apparently, I'm really bad at that.
Apparently. I mean, that's pretty sour to
Yeah. And the thing is, like, who's responsible for the sour milk stinking up the whole house is like pretty small compared to my inability to take ownership for something that small. And then worse yet, to like let her just take the blame for it. It's pretty bad, really bad, friend. So I was like, okay, I should probably clean up my mess. Specifically, the mess that I made when I stood by and did nothing while she cleaned up the original mess that I made. So the next day, I just went over to her house and dove right in, like, good morning, your house smells so much better today. Guess what? I decided that I'm going to act like an adult and I'm going to take ownership for my mistakes. I am the one who put the sour milk water bottle in the cupboard 2 weeks ago. And she was like super surprised and confused and like, did you just now remember that you did that? I was like, no. She's like, and you didn't say anything yesterday? It's like, no. She kind of just looked at me like, what is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to admit my own mistakes. I don't know. She seemed really confused by the whole situation, but I think she's kind of used to my weirdness, so it's probably okay. But so her question of like, why didn't you say anything yesterday? That kind of sent me down like an introspective rabbit hole of overanalyzing the situation and trying to figure out what's going on inside of me. And it's something our friend Wendy refers to as approaching it with curiosity rather than judgment. Instead of saying, I'm an idiot, like, what was I thinking? It's just asking myself in a really nice tone of voice, like, what was I thinking? Like, why did I do that? And ultimately, I figured out that my initial inability to admit my mistake is rooted in the childhood belief that I earn my value by being helpful. And I have a couple of childhood memories that are just like embedded in my mind because I replayed them over and over, agonizing over them as a child, you know. And it's moments when I thought I was helpful only to discover that actually wasn't helpful, and then just feeling like displeasure and disappointment in me and just that sense of failure and shame because my identity was being unhelpful and I wasn't helpful. And so now it's like I need to work extra hard to be helpful to counteract that failure. So, I mean, really, like the ultimate failure would be to think I'm being helpful, like cleaning up to show the house, only to discover that it was the opposite of helpful. And now the house has stunk for 2 weeks and just feeling that shame and disapproval and disappointment in me. But as a healthier adult, I've grown in confidence in my identity and feeling secure in relationship. And I realize the whole thing's not that big of a deal, other than my inability to take responsibility for my mistake. That was kind of pathetic. But overall, it's like I'm a more mature, healthier, confident person. And like as soon as I told her, I kind of just went home and laughed about it. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. Like, this is a really good story. We need to do a podcast. It's funny.
Well, it's actually rather deep because you're talking about the sense of like, as a child, your identity would have been under threat and duress because God forbid you're not seen as helpful, which, then admitting that you were maybe a little unhelpful in helping sell the house.
The house still sold, so.
Yeah, amazingly, it didn't seem to affect the sale, albeit small, being able to take awareness of a funny moment and curiously go down a path rather than judging yourself. Obviously, it's kind of funny. My wife could easily say, I am helpful to play to the book that we just put out, right? I am helpful. But to put it on too much to where anything that threatens that identity.
Your identity is completely in being helpful, and then I break an arm and can't be helpful. Like, that's a problem. Like, an identity is more in who we are than what we do.
Yes.
And I think apparently I've somehow finally figured that out to where I'm not devastated when I fail at being helpful.
Yes.
I still want to be helpful, and I still usually am helpful, but it's not my identity.
The sense of like, well, I am helpful, that is something that brings great satisfaction.
Yeah.
In the end, your behavior doesn't necessarily define you. it's a part
Yeah.
of you. You have to
It's
live with the
usually a red
behavioral.
flag that there's something deeper
Yeah,
going on.
your behavior is an
Um,
indicator of something to be aware of,
and then you
as
ask the
is.
question of why am I behaving this way? Instead of beating yourself up for the stupid thing, it's where is this coming from? What's the root issue? And then you can get all introspective and journal and cry and process and spend weeks getting, I mean, not weeks.
Well, I think it really is important to allow time for reflecting, journaling. This is why anybody who's successful is always encouraging making space for you.
Yes.
Taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of everyone else. Actually, it's really hard to take care of other people when you don't take care of yourself because you eventually burn out.
Right. And that's where I was last spring when I
Lots-
fell apart.
When you fall apart, we all fall
And then
apart
put myself
sometimes.
back together. Now I feel much better because I've processed all sorts of chaos and came up with another one that apparently I hadn't processed yet.
Mm-hmm.
Probably have another one in a couple weeks.
Yes, I'm sure.
You sure?
Yeah.
You have more issues that are going to come up next week? Great.
I've got a whole lifetime of issues, and I'm still
Yeah.
still working through my own. Take every moment to be curious. I guess that's the life lesson. It does help to be vulnerable, not necessarily the whole world.
Just safe people.
Scars are
podcasts.
cool. Gushing blood is for the doctors, in an emotional sense, for the therapist, for the coach, for your closest friend. It's knowing who to be vulnerable with and when to be vulnerable. But the key point there is be vulnerable and aware and have fun. And don't take yourself too seriously.
Like your identity not all wrapped up in what you do or whatever.
As we go down this rabbit hole of identity and all sorts of
really
philosophy.
hate this topic.
I love this topic.
I hate it. I love it because I'm hungry. I'm like, who am I? I want to know who I am and self-discovery. But I really hate that it's like this weird abstract concept. And I'm like, I don't know. Who am I? I listened to a really good podcast from a few years ago from our church. And Amy Bailey said, our whole life is a journey of discovering who we are and we never stop figuring it out. So it's quite lovely to hear another like mature, responsible adult say that she doesn't have it figured out and we don't have to have it figured out. It's just we have our whole lifelong journey of self-discovery, which is great. That was really actually relieving. I felt really good that day.
So to that effect, keep on discovering who you are.
Yeah, so like I said, I knew it was a significant event, but I didn't know why it was significant, and I didn't understand what happened inside of me. But like you said, telling the same story over and over. I went to a Reclaiming Your Story workshop where my friend Wendy talked about your story. And she asked, is there a story you keep repeating over and over? Yes, there is. She's like, or is there something you keep like reliving? Because some people in the group had stories where it's like they'd experienced the same story in different versions multiple times throughout their lives. So I was like, yes, I have a story. And it's the sour milk story. And I would really, really, I mean, this is maybe 4 or 5 months after it happened. It was like, I would like to stop obsessing over this story and move on with my life.
Well, you were reliving it day in and day out. Hence why I heard it so many times.
Yeah.
You're literally reliving this trauma, trying to figure
Right.
why your world's crumbling down.
Yes.
Like
my whole world just fell apart.
midlife crisis.
No use crying over spilled milk. But let me tell you, sour milk, that can mess you up. And so that is also when I learned about triggers, which I always thought triggers were like, someone who's been at war and they hear a loud noise and they think it's a gunshot and they freak out and think someone's shooting at them. That's PTSD. Triggers is when you re-feel feelings from a previous event and sometimes bigger in the current moment than they were originally. So I walked through this. I had, went to my life coach who did this workshop and had an appointment with her and she's like, where are you trying to go in your life? What do you want to do? What do you want to solve? And I'm like, I just need to tell you the story because I need to tell it to someone other than Dwayne.
Yes, please.
And I
tell
need
it
help.
to somebody
Please.
else.
Please help me. The sour milk has ruined my life.
And here we are telling it again.
A year and a half later. So she walked me through triggers, basically. I mean, she was like, how old did you feel when it happened? Which, as you heard in the story, I felt like a child. And that's why I rewrote the story in a version that sounds like I'm a little kid helping my mom pack to move. Because I felt like a scared little kid, which is very strange. I think she also asked, like, where do you feel in your body? And, like, put your hand on that place and just, like, acknowledge those feelings and allow them to exist rather than to push it away and push it down. Because then we're just suppressing our pain. It's not a physical pain, but it can feel like a physical pain. Yeah, so it's like I kind of realized that as a child, like I just grew up with a big fear of punishment for every little mistake that I made, and the sour milk was a really, really big, bad mistake for 6-year-old me, compared to the other things that I'd done as a child. Because I mean, 6-year-olds don't do things that are that bad. So making someone's house stink for 2 weeks was pretty bad.
Well, I mean, so you retelling that story, you were reliving that pain over and over and over, trying to make it go away.
Yeah, like, if I just tell you again, this thing
It'll
inside of me
sort
will
out.
sort itself out. Um, yeah. I mean, I basically realized, like, I was re-feeling what it felt like to be 6-year-old me. I grew up walking on eggshells, constantly afraid of getting in trouble, with fear and anxiety. I didn't know that I had anxiety. I recognize it now. Back then, this was just normal life. This is just how I always felt. But now being so far removed from it, like, to re-feel what it felt like to be my child self was pretty intense. To be, like, thrown back into that amount of fear and anxiety over something so small. But triggers do, like, include emotions that can be too big and dramatic for the current event, and this was yeah, I mean, what I felt inside was huge for the sour milk, and there is that, like, what would my friend have done if she realized it was me? It's like, she probably woulda laughed. And adult me knows that, but me feeling like a scared little kid is like, I've never gotten in trouble with my friend before. If it was my mom, I know what would happen, but I don't know how my friend is going to respond and how she's gonna treat me, and I'm stuck in, like, I guess, worst case scenario, which I realized, like, would not have happened. Like, we
What
would
you
have
thought,
laughed.
yeah.
Um, but I think because I was then stuck in a trigger, even if she was laughing and thought this was funny, I'd be like, "This isn't funny." Like, I'm terrified right now. So, yeah, I mean, like, I don't know that there was any good way out of that situation other than to, like, regulate my nervous system and get out of fight or flight and come back into normal Becky. So, I mean, we can laugh now. Um,
But that's the only regulation you knew at that point, was to make it a joke.
right, yeah,
Hence the
that's true
video,
too.
right?
Yeah. It's like, "Okay, let's just
You
laugh at it." Yeah.
recently learned how to regulate.
Well, how to regulate beyond just laughing.
Recently, as in
Um,
to yeah, yeah,
yeah.
like actually
Yeah.
take awareness, take stock, regulate. Well, shoot, I'm learning from you. I
Yep.
thought I'd
Yeah.
learned some tools. Um,
Yeah, and I think I mean, at that point in life, I was about 2 years into my kind of journey of, like, inner healing and self-discovery. I had done the Souls Like Stars workbook with a small group, and then I had done the Reclaiming Your Story workshop, and so I've been doing a lot of things that are taking steps towards healing. But then, yeah, the sour milk incident is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back and just sent me into this tailspin of, like, I don't know how to function. I grew up in perfection and performance and faking being okay. And I might also believe, like, Christians don't go to counseling because we have Jesus, so we don't have problems. You just need to pray harder and have more faith and try harder. But I guess I've learned apparently, like, maybe everyone has this problem where, like, our childhood coping mechanisms break down. And it just the way we function in the world as a child does not translate into adulthood.
Not if you're using, childhood tactics,
Yeah,
right?
so I guess that's
Eventually,
kind of what happened in the sour milk. My way of functioning in the world,
it's no longer
this
going to
this
work.
doesn't work. And I have no idea what to do, and I'm not okay, and I don't know how to fix this. So I had a life coach. And oh, yeah, the past year has been really hard, as you know. And I did a whole mentorship program at church, weekly meetings with my mentor, who's also my adopted mom, and a small group meeting and things like that. So we've been working through a lot of things. Yeah, basically, it's like when I became an adult and moved to Idaho, I just put everything behind me and started making a new life for myself. And just in the past year, I had to like re look back into my childhood.
Bottle by bottle,
Yeah, go
pull it
through it.
off. You know, here's when this happened.
Yeah.
Here's when this happened.
Yeah, and then,
That
like, to feel pain that, like, I didn't feel when it did happen because I lived in fear and anxiety, but also, like, numb and disconnected. So now to, like, allow myself to feel the pain that has been suppressed because we push it down and ignore it, but it doesn't go away. It's still there and it still affects us, and at some point, like, you have to let it out, which means you have to feel it, which is not fun. Oh, yeah, so it's been a hard year. I think one of the first steps was just realizing that, like, just kinda, like, releasing my need to hide the wrong things that happened and being able to, like, face it. I've kind of always felt like I need to justify and make excuses for the things that people did, and I'm very understanding and then also like defending and protecting them because I felt guilty by association. I mean, I grew up in like super judgmentalness as well. So feeling like everyone is judging me for all the mistakes that anyone in my family has made, not just my own mistakes.
Well, that makes
Um,
perfect sense considering, all the, you know,
yeah, I mean,
well,
I think I
so
was the scapegoat, so everything was my fault. So it's like in some regards, like I had to let go of like the shame and realizing that the things that happened to me and the things that happened around me are not my fault. And I don't need to, I mean, I think it's called toxic shame when you feel shame for things that other people did that I didn't even do it. Like it's not my shame, it's other people's shames that I'm carrying. So I need to like let go of that and then be able to talk about the things that happened so I can heal that. But I think with the belief that things are my fault, if it is my fault and my responsibility, then I have some measure of control. Like this is kind of a trauma response. Part of that is if it's my fault, then I can control the outcome. Like if I can just be good enough, I won't be punished. If I can be helpful enough, people will love me. If I do the right thing, it can affect the outcome of how people will treat me. Really, I had to come to terms with the fact that like there's nothing I can do to change the things that happened and I can't control other people and I can't change the way that other people treat me. I can't change what they do, how they behave. I can't control the people and I can't fix that. The only thing I can do is fix this. Like, I can set boundaries. I can protect myself. I can learn to trust myself. I can learn to listen to my body and trust my gut instincts or the Holy Spirit, which I think is kind of in some ways the same ish thing, at least for me. I don't hear the voice of God. It's more like a gut instinct. And the other big thing is like learning, like, yeah, learning to trust myself and learning to feel safe in my own body. And I think for a long time, like, I was frustrated that, like, the answer is Jesus. And I'm like, can we have a different answer? And now it's like, I have that answer. Like, the answer is me, which means I have to do the work. And all of a sudden, I'm like, Jesus sounds easier. Can Jesus just fix this, please? Like, why do I have to do the work? I can't just pray my problems away. I can't just have enough faith and hope that everything will get better. I can't just expect Jesus to come in the knight in shining armor and fix everything for me. Like, I have to actually do work. Oh, yeah, it's hard and it's work and it's worth it.
yeah, it is.
But yeah, I'm definitely still very much in the middle of this and still processing and healing. And I kind of feel like all of adulthood is just going to be spent like trying to clean up the messes and the pain and the trauma and probably experiencing more pain and trauma as life goes on. And then we have to heal and clean up those messes. And like, there's just got to be more to life than this.
Obviously, you can live in such a way, right? You're not in a constant traumatic environment, so it doesn't have to
Right.
be that over and over and over.
Right.
But stuff happens, car crashes,
Yeah.
you name it. But it's not going to be daily.
Yeah.
You're not at war
Right.
anymore,
Right. But
unless
like, I mean, I've had to like do neurofeedback
yeah,
therapy and things like that to get myself, my nervous system
I
out of fight
too.
or flight so I can come into a place where it's like, I feel calm, I feel safe. Now we can work through things.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, you've made the space. I mean, I know I've made
uh,
space for you to
yes,
have
you
space and like
made a
creating
lot
this.
of space.
It certainly helps that you created this environment.
Yeah.
But it's also the element of now you have the tools because in community, right? We've done community.
Yeah.
Guess what? Messes happen. Leaders did things and we got hurt, um,
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
but
like
you
we
have
said,
the tools, so when another mess happens, you realize
yeah.
this is an individual mess. This is how I feel it. This is how we keep doing community. This is how we
Yeah.
go through moments of
Yeah.
growth
Which
together.
I think I shared previously, like sensing I belong here.
Yes.
But along with that, I also realized, like, I have a choice. Like, I can choose into belonging into this community. I feel like I belong, but I have a choice to belong as well. And I have a choice to leave. Like, if crap hits the fan, I can leave. We know how to leave when crap hits the fan. I hope we're better at recognizing red flags and
Yes.
when the story starts to repeat itself. So instead of playing all the way out, that we can be like, oh, wait, we've done this before. Like, we can leave before crap hits the fan. So yeah, there's just been a lot of healing, a lot of growth. It's been really hard. It's been really good.
It's been really funny.
It's been funny.
It's been lovely.
Yeah.
I said this to you, like this whole incident, despite having to listen to the same stories, this isn't the only story
Yeah.
I've heard a
Over and
gazillion
over and
times as you
over.
relive. But usually there's an element of unpacking and like, oh, where are you going? And
Yeah.
I don't have the skills of your life coach. I have the skills of a consulting marketer. So I know where
Yeah.
to take
You
a
can ask some
narrative to
questions,
turn
but
it
yeah.
in. But I honestly, I want to turn it into a YouTube video
Yeah.
because it's an inciting incident. And I see the tale that we can tell. But tall tales are fun to tell after there's an
Yeah.
element of healing. Like you can tell this beginning from
Mhm.
a very healed place
Yeah.
and not bleed all over
Right.
everybody and
Yeah.
written it beautifully.
And maybe
But
5 years from now, there'll be a version of the sour milk story that has a cleaner
a
conclusion,
cleaner conclusion.
you know?
It's an eloquent
Yeah.
opening to, and now we're on this journey.
Yep.
But I was going to say, I feel more connected and
Yeah.
intimate with you now that
Yes.
we're going through this journey
Yeah.
because, well, in many ways, you're actually feeling like you're no
Yeah.
longer numb and
And I'm not just using
opening up.
humor to hide everything.
You're
I'm
actually
actually, like, being vulnerable.
crying in
Um,
front of
a
me.
lot of crying.
A lot of
So
crying.
much crying.
Well, you avoided it. I
Yeah.
think you cried
Probably more in the
a few
last 2
times.
or 3 years than I've cried in my whole
Oh,
life.
yeah.
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 It's exhausting.
Hard to have your own feelings.
Yeah. And I mean, at this point, I think crying is the only emotion that I express or the only way that I express emotion. Like, if I'm sad, I cry. If I'm angry or upset, I cry. If I'm, like, excited and feeling too much positive emotion, I might be moved to tears. But I did see someplace, like, probably in a meme on Instagram, tears is a way of regulating our nervous system. It is a way of releasing. And so
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you, Instagram meme, for
That's why I hug
permission to
my
cry.
dog.
You hug your dog?
Well,
That's
because
yeah, regulating, yeah.
as a guy, I have a hard time getting it out.
Yeah.
So I can hold an animal,
Yeah.
and that allows me because I can't just.
That allows you to, like,
I
release emotion.
I need to, yeah. And an animal feels safe, right? Hugging my dog, who's as fluffy as a teddy bear,
Yeah. It's
that
the same
gives
as,
her
like, hugging your
space.
pillow.
Yeah,
It's just that it's alive.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the fact that you can choose to belong, that's a really powerful statement. Like we
Yeah.
all want to feel like we belong, or
Yeah. Sensing, like, I belong here. It's like, well, this could be a trap. I belong here is now, like, I'm stuck here permanently forever.
we do that to ourselves.
Everywhere we live, every job I've ever had, every home I've ever lived in, everything is like, I am planning on being here for the rest of my life. And then things change,
Yep.
and that's fine.
Someone leaves, we gotta leave. Opportunity
Yeah.
arises, and
It's a measure of being committed and not just flighty. But there's still, like, the sense, like, I belong here and I can choose to leave and not just be a victim of the circumstances again.
yeah,
Even if the circumstances are saying, you belong here. Like, I'm not a prisoner.
yeah. Well, I think that sometimes, I mean, there's a both and, but to leave, when we left, it was, well, where are my friends gonna be?
Yeah.
Where
Where's our
Who am I gonna
community?
hang out? Where's our community? And it's better to stay here and be abused in order to keep my friends, my
Right.
job, be able to pay for things. We trap ourselves because of fearing what we might lose when we need to leave.
Right.
A whole nother conversation entirely
Yep.
that we'll have to unpack on
Yeah. You can do that on your episode.
my journey.
So, yeah, that is the latest version of the sour milk story. Stay tuned in 5 years for a different version.
Different version.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Make it become more. I had a funny thought.
I don't know.
Poignant.
And I'm like, can
Sour.
it turn to yogurt?
You
When
have
life
sour
gives you
milk.
lemon, make lemonade. If you have sour milk, make yogurt. It did not smell good. It was past the yogurt stage.
Anyways, on that note, it was fun.
Yes.
Come, like, subscribe, share, be a part of this wonder movement. It'll be wonderfully different.
Be wonderfully you.
Goodbye.